What is up, Wretched Nation? Today we are still fighting an issue with the roadglide. I have a trip planned in a little bit less than a month, and I've got to get this issue fixed. It's been really hard for me to show you guys the wobble I'm experiencing, and I was starting to wonder if it was just in my head. But when I picked the bike up last, the wife was driving behind me in the car. She took me up there to get the bike, and I didn't say anything to her. She knew that I dropped the bike off for a wobble issue, and as we were coming home I was still experiencing that issue, and we tightened up the steering nut, and they said that did fail, and the front end seemed to be a little better, but I guess with the front end being a little bit better, I could really feel that this was starting in the rear. And I never said anything to the wife. When I pulled over at a gas station, she said, "Your bike is wobbling in the rear." And she says she can see it starting to sway back and forth in the rear. And I was like, yeah, that's what I'm dealing with. So today we're going to try to rule out everything that I did to the bike. This problem kind of occurred earlier in the year. We got a new tire and new rear shocks at the same time. So what we're going to do right now is basically just look the bike over and go for a ride. Saddlebags off, just double checked everything. The shocks aren't bound up. They're the same preload on each side, the same rebound on each side. I pretty much figured they were, but got tape measure out and just double checked everything. And then I checked the air pressure. I have a Dunlop in the front, still the factory tire in the front, and I have a Metzler in the rear. I wanted to go with the Michelin Commander. It's what I've been running on my Dyna for years, but they discontinued the 2 and went to the 3, and the 3 has gotten horrible reviews. So I was like, well, let me go with something else. I know at least on my Dyna, the Dunlop tires always seem to just chop really bad or cup near the end of its lifespan. It's always been that way, so I've just tried to steer away from those. So we went with these Metzlers to see how it would be, and kind of right away I just had some rear wobble. It's like the rear end just kind of wiggles a little bit, and it kind of transfers through the bike, so the bike starts to wobble. It's at 80 miles an hour cruising. If I'm speeding up, not so much. If I'm slowing down, not so much. It's just cruising. But we checked the air pressure, was at like 48. Online they call for like 50, but max cold's like 42. So I don't know, everyone online says 50, so I put it a little over 50 just in case my gauge was a little off, and when you pull the chuck out, some of the air comes out. But we're gonna throw the bags on real quick, double check this. If that doesn't fix the issue, I don't see anything out of ordinary back here. I mean, I'm no bike mechanic, but I don't see anything out of the ordinary. My belt deflection looks okay. The rear axle adjuster looks okay. I mean, I don't really see an issue. So we pumped the tires up, probably about 4 psi in it, and we're gonna hit the road real quick. What I might do, if the problem persists, what I might do is just go down and exit. If the problem persists, what I might is click the rebound up, maybe all the way, go down to another exit and just see if that helps. And if that doesn't, then on the way home, I'll click the rebound completely the other direction, just to see. It's set in the middle. I mean, I shouldn't be having this issue, but just to try to figure out what this could be. And before we take it to the shop, I want to get anything that I could have done out of the equation. I don't want to spend more money than I have to.
Alright guys, I went to leave and realized I didn't double check the front tire for its air pressure. So I turned around and double checked it, and it was at like 45. That should be fine. It might be a little high, but that should be fine. Probably the most aggravating thing about all of this is I have to be doing a very specific thing for the wobble to happen. And even though I'm not always cruising at 80 miles an hour, that's just around town riding. Like, I have to be on the freeway cruising 80, which doesn't happen, all the time. There's 2 main highways around my town. One of them, the speed limit's 60 or 55, and the other one's 70. But on the other highway, if you're not riding 80 miles an hour, you're going to get run over. And that's the major highway going north and south up the East Coast. So I need to be able to cruise that speed. Now in a month, I'm going to New Jersey for the race of gentlemen. I need to be able to cruise that speed. I can't be going 60 miles an hour when everybody's rolling 85, 90 miles an hour around me. I can't be going that slow. Plus, my bike's not right. I want it right. I got to figure this out. We're going to go across town, get on the highway, and my plan is to get it up to speed, figure it out, and if it's still doing it, then I'll hop off and exit, adjust my, the preload I'm going to leave alone, but adjust my rebound all the way one direction, and if that doesn't help, I'll adjust it all the way the other direction and head on back. There's really no more adjustment to be made on the road. I don't think my preload's off that much. It's probably a little on the stiff side. It does worry me that the problem doesn't seem to persist with the wife on the back, but even if the shocks are just completely tight, it shouldn't be a problem. I have the preload set to where it's a little firm when I'm riding by myself, and it's a little soft when I'm riding with the wife. That way, I don't have to go in there and adjust it every time we want to ride somewhere. Now, if we're going to go on a trip and the bike's loaded down, then yeah, I'm going to have to tighten it up a little bit. But if we're going just to dinner or just like a half-day trip or something like that, there's no reason to adjust these shocks every single time I get on it. This is the bike we both ride together. If we're going to go somewhere, we're going to be on this bike. She definitely enjoys to ride, so we use this vehicle anytime we can. It's a lot more fun than taking the car, so it's just easier if I try to keep the preload a little bit in the middle. But there's no way that it being off a quarter of an inch or half an inch of travel is going to make that much of a difference. I don't know. And the bike feels solid. I mean, it feels okay most of the time. So I don't know. Alright, we're going on the highway. I go on 85. I don't know, the wiggle it's a very small amount of wiggle, but it's there. Going 80 now, yeah, the wiggle's there. Doesn't seem to be quite as bad as it was previously, though. I don't know, it doesn't really seem that bad. Just to see, we're going to keep going instead of getting off the highway. Maybe that tire is just that sensitive. I'm rolling 90 now, and I'm not really feeling it. The only change I made was giving it about 5 to 7 more PSI in the rear, and it feels way more comfortable. The only time it gets out of whack is when I get near a truck or something like this U-Haul where the air gets a little disturbed. So honestly, I don't think I'm going to make any adjustments at all. This doesn't really feel bad. the only time I really have issues is getting behind these transfer trucks. It's hard to think that air pressure was the problem the whole time. Because yeah, I picked it up after the tire got put on and had the issue. I don't know. We'll do the same thing on the way home and see what happens. Yeah, I mean, it's not doing too bad. When it gets near the trucks, it definitely wants to wiggle some. And I feel like before it didn't wiggle that much. But this is still way better than it used to be. But what I'm going to do, just to be sure, there's no reason to make adjustments to the rebound. I'm going to go home and swap the shocks out real quick. It doesn't take long to swap the shocks out. It takes like, I don't know, the buffeting here is just a little bit off. I'm going 70 now, and it's not bad. The bike just wiggles, but I'm behind this transfer truck. It's kind of crazy because like right now it's not doing it bad, but I've had it before where the bike just wiggles so much it's not enjoyable. It's kind of scary what the bike will do. And no, the wobble hasn't been so bad that my handlebars really move, but the bike just kind of wiggles back and forth. But I'm going 60 miles an hour, 65, and it's wiggling a little bit, probably from just the air of that truck. All my vents are open. It shouldn't have anything to do with that. But I mean, I've been going 60, 65 on a back road going straight, and it hasn't done that. I feel like I'm just like hyper zoned in on what the bike is doing because of the issue I've had. But this is way better than what it was before. I just hate to be on a trip for 8 hours and have to modulate this problem. And of course now we got traffic, so I'm not going to be able to cruise it at 80.
Alright guys, I'm not quite sure where my GoPro left off. I did notice that it was stopped, so I have no idea what quite footage we got, but I'm just going to recap real quick. We're back at the house now. We took the roadglide out, went on the highway, and it felt actually better than I thought it would. I really didn't get much wiggle without being near a transfer truck. And before, it felt like being near a transfer truck, just going straight by myself. So the steering head has been reset, like the preload on the bearing, that's been set. And we put about 6 or 7 more PSI on the rear tire. Maybe it's a Metzler Cressida or whatever, it's a newer one. Maybe the tire is just that sensitive. If it is, good for it. I won't be using another one. If that's the issue, I mean, I'm glad if it is, because we figured it out. I might run just a little bit more air pressure and see what happens. It's right around 50 to 52, so probably 50 to 51. Maybe run just 1 or 2 more and see what it does. But on the way back, there was nothing but transfer trucks, and I was having that feeling all the time. And it was getting close to get off an exit, so what I did is I got kind of close to the transfer truck, running 60, and it was having that wobble, that buffeting feeling, and I just kind of veered off slowly to the exit ramp because the exit ramp was long and straight. And as soon as I cleared that transfer truck, I was going 60, wiggling where I wasn't ever wiggling by myself going 60. As soon as we did that, it went away. As soon as we got out of that air pocket of the transfer truck, it went away. So I was on the way home. I was going to change out the shocks, but honestly, it just wasn't enough for me to really change the shocks out. Because if I put the new shocks on, or the old shocks on, and take the new ones off, and it's really not any different, or maybe slightly better, it doesn't justify the road aggressiveness, or it doesn't justify the harshness of the road and the comfortability that these shocks provide. So I think I'm going to ride it just a little bit more, see what I can do, and if that's just how it's going to be, We'll deal with it for a little bit. I've got 4,000 miles on that tire, which is not a lot. If I can get through this trip to New Jersey, then I'll pretty much be golden for the year. I don't have any other trips planned. So maybe just this winter I'll change the tire out and eat the cost of it. But I don't know, we'll figure it out. If you guys have any suggestions or comments, definitely comment down below.
But I don't see the justification to put the stock shocks on, try that, take them back off, and just spend all day on this. I think what I might want to do is ride it again on a different day and just see how it feels. Because if I'm going 80, 85 by myself with nobody around me and it's not doing it, then I don't think it's the bike. I think it's just, at this point, I've been so much trying to figure this issue out that I think even the buffeting from a tractor trailer, I think it's just inhibiting my ability to know the difference. Because we have adjusted the steering head. I know the suspension is aligned right. So I think the only thing left really is that tire, unless there is something worn out. But when I go in the curves, it doesn't really do it. I can whip the bike around, it doesn't really do it. When the wife's on it, it really doesn't do it. I think it just might be buffeting at this point. It's definitely better than what it was. It used to do it by itself. So I think we're getting somewhere. We're just going to have to put a lot of air pressure on that back tire, which I'm not exactly comfortable with. Having a tire that so much on edge of giving me an issue, I don't like that.
So either way, at this point, we're going to call the video. I'm not quite sure where I'm going to go from here. Again, if you have any suggestions or comments, comment them down below. I know a few people have said the rear sway bar bushings, this bike has got 17,000 miles on it, and I know they can go bad, but I don't really have a good way to check it myself. I don't have a bike stand, I don't have a real bike jack, and you have to lift the bike up, undo both shocks, at least the bottom part of the shocks, and shake the tire. I don't really have a good way to do that, so I'm going to leave that one alone. But we're just going to send it and see what happens. Hopefully everything will be alright. If you like this video, definitely hit that like button. Again, got any suggestions, comments, comment down below. And if you're not subscribed, please go ahead and subscribe. I'd greatly appreciate it. But as always, keep it wretched.